cocktails. We were definitely tipsy by the time we headed back to the room.
Absolutely. Virgin made all of the bars and alcohol very accessible, I would say.
Yes.
We did not have a problem accessing anything we wanted.
That was the other thing I forgot. When we got on board, we had gone to visit the spa, because part of our package was 3 hours of access to the thermal suite, which you normally have to pay for. So we had to schedule that. And because it was only a 4-night cruise and we wanted to do all the things, we were like, let's do that quickly. So we got down there. We apparently decided that 7 a.m.
the next morning
was going to be our time.
Mind you, we are jet lagged. We have now partied all day. We've attended this late night pajama party, and yet somehow we thought we would be bright and perky for a spa morning.
Yeah.
7 a.m. the next morning.
And we did.
We did it.
We rolled out. I don't think either of us even brought our phones. No, yeah, we don't have any footage from it because I just was like, I felt a little weird. I have seen a lot of people do get footage in the spa, and it wasn't busy, so we could have gotten footage in the spa. But I was tired, and I was just like, I want to experience this unencumbered by
and
my
I think we took that time period. We had 3 hours very, very seriously in terms of total disconnect and relaxation.
So, it was a cruise from Portsmouth to Amsterdam, so I did not anticipate that we would be doing anything in the pools, but we did bring bathing suits. I always bring bathing suits because they do have the hot tubs, and no matter where you're going,
always have a bathing suit.
So we had our bathing suits on, and they give you robes in the spa and slippers, and they walked us through and told us the order that you typically do things, which I think was the sauna first.
Sauna, then steam room, and then it's recommended that you cold or hot plunge, but cold plunge initially.
Warm, and there's like a thalassotherapy pool, but it doesn't. Well, it's not really a thalassotherapy pool.
Yeah, and they had a lot of what they considered warm and what I consider warm were really two different definitions of warm.
I will say that the tubs and the larger pool were a little small. We did get into one of the warm tubs with Cal and Charlotte, our friends from Gumbay.
Our Gumbay friends.
The 4 of us in there were tight.
It was definitely a squeeze. Knees up.
2 people is a little bit more. You can kind of stretch your legs out that way. Did I get in the cold plunge? I tried to.
I think I got into my knees and gave up. I think you actually got in briefly.
I think I did briefly. And then the larger pool, which was just barely warm, it felt pretty warm after that. But yeah, so we kind of did things in order, and then did the mud, which every time I've watched a video of this, and if you've watched YouTube, you've seen people with the mud, and you get a little free cup of mud.
Just a tiny cup of mud.
And you go into the mud room, and you rub it all over, and then you wash it off, and you let it sit for a while, and it's very warm and steamy in that room anyway, and
the mud has all these properties that are excellent for your skin.
So every video I've seen of that, I'm like, that's such a ridiculously small amount of mud. What does that even do? It's weird. When you actually have it in your hand, I was like, this is more than I need.
I know. We were like struggling to use the last of the mud.
So don't be put off by that. It actually is plenty for what you need. We had it everywhere we could put it without getting naked. So it was fine. And I actually had not thought ahead and was wearing a white bathing suit, which is maybe not the thing to wear into the mudroom. And I was careful about it, but I think it would have come out anyway. I did not stain my bathing suit.
But that is something to note, because we heard multiple people talk about, how they wish they hadn't worn a white bathing suit. I wore a black bathing suit. Nothing could be seen and everything rinsed off. Shannon was in a white one, and I think you maybe stained it slightly, but it did come out eventually.
Yeah, it was fine. Not a big deal. But yeah, it's plenty of mud. And so we didn't spend we spent most of the 3 hours, and because we hadn't brought our phones, and I don't think there was a clock, we had to keep asking people what time it was. We didn't know what time,
and they weren't kicking us out, and so we didn't want to overstay, but
we had brunch reservations.
We did. We were on a strict schedule. We had to move on to our next destination.
Right.
We had to get back to the room and get cleaned up and change and get to our brunch. Right. And so I think we ended up staying 2.5 hours. We could have gone the full 3 hours. We just had no sense of time. Yeah. And we did everything.
We got antsy, especially because that was 2.5 hours without our phone, which is for me to be awake for 2.5 hours without even having it in the same room with me is a lot. It's a lot. So I think my anxiety was ramping up.
It stopped being relaxing and it was time to go.
So yeah, we went to brunch at Razzle Dazzle. So that's
Razzle
food. That's your
Dazzle.
department.
Yes, so food. Razzle Dazzle was such a unique brunch experience. I will tell you, it was our very first brunch meal. The service was not exceptional, and by that I simply mean that they were slammed and perhaps slightly understaffed. So we waited these irregular time blocks for our coffee and our tea and our appetizer and whatnot. But having said that, the food itself was phenomenal. In fact, I think Shannon ordered what I would consider one of the top 5 dishes of the cruise. Her breakfast, she ordered, and it was deceptively simple, but so creative and so elegant in its presentation, in its just overall creativity. She got sort of a flat wagon wheel of watermelon with frozen fruit and mint and this delightful sort of tofu cream. It was a fully vegan dish. It was frozen in parts, adding this unbelievably unique textural element. And it was just so fresh and so light and so unexpected. The presentation was stunning. The flavor was stunning. It was incredible that here we were in the middle of the ocean having this almost tropical delight. Oh, and I think there was like a smattering of granola on top as well. Oh, yeah, there was granola. And it was huge. So, of course, I had some too.
Yeah.
But overall, Razzle Dazzle.
It was the whole circumference of the watermelon.
It was. It was just a wagon wheel. It was just a wedge through the middle, and it filled an entire plate. Beautiful. Delightful. The food was great. We each ordered sides of sort of maple-soaked bacon, and we ate very, very well.
I had something with salmon. Did I have I think I had something with salmon. I can't remember what my main dish was. I'll have to go look in pictures, but it was a very satisfying meal.
It was lovely. It was great. The tables are a little tight, I will say, in Razzle Dazzle. The service, maybe because we went on the very first brunch service of the cruise, was a little spotty. But overall, the food was delightful and we enjoyed it thoroughly. We were also slightly hungover and at that point hadn't eaten a thing after 3 hours of spying. So we were starving. Did we eat anything that morning? I can't remember. No, I don't think we did.
No, we didn't. We went to the spa without eating.
Yeah.
Okay. We had to conference over what the hell it is we did after brunch on Friday because we couldn't really remember.
We knew we did something.
Yeah, but we actually had a pretty relaxing. We went back to the room and rested because we'd gotten up so early.
Yes.
So I think Nina had a little nap and I enjoyed the hammock. And I also really enjoyed, and I wasn't even anticipating this being part of the trip, but we were coming into Amsterdam during that afternoon, which means if you've ever sailed into Amsterdam or familiar with that geography at all, you have to go through, there's a town called Ismuden? I don't know. Probably
easy for
not.
you to say.
You have to go through some locks. They then follow the waterway. I mean, Amsterdam's actually quite a bit inland, and it's crazy to me that such big ships can get to it. But as you're sailing through there, like, there's windmills, and, I mean, just the countryside and the Netherlands, even though that is actually a quite industrial area, even the factories in the Netherlands were just so picturesque. It was lovely. I just was hanging in the hammock, which is just as good as they say, and enjoying the scenery. Just really, really chilling. So we did that for a while.
And the locks were a cool experience. Like going through them at those narrow passageways. It was amazing.
I mean, we were looking down and, it was probably a little more, but from a distance, it
looks like this much.
This much space between the side of the ship and the wall. But yeah, it was very, very cool. And we did make it through. There have been some protesters there that have blocked some of the sailings, had been not able to get through the locks because of protesters. But we didn't have an issue the day that we went through.
And spoiler alert for future cruisers to Amsterdam.
Yeah.
That's ending. There's a sunset provision in place.
I think it's sometime in 2026.
Yeah.
There will no longer be cruises going to Amsterdam.
Which is an actual shame because Amsterdam is such a cool place to come into.
Yes, but you'll just have to come in another way. And I don't know if there's smaller ships like expedition style ships that they're going to allow in, but the big cruise ships are not going to be allowed in anymore. So And that's what the protesters were protesting about. They were protesting cruise ships. I don't know if they think it will end sooner if they protest. I'm not sure. But anyway, we didn't have that issue. And we also had found out that the Charmer, I was fixing to say, it wasn't just
Chris the Charmer.
Chris the Charmer.
He was part of the Happenings cast, and he was the onboard magician on the Resilient Lady during our voyage.
Close-up magic, predominantly. Like, he doesn't have a full show, like in the theater, but he is involved in a lot of the group things that the Happenings cast does, and he walks around and does close-up magic, and it shows up on the schedule, like where he's going to be and when he's going to be doing it. Apparently, there are also these secret magic shows that happen that we had read about, and they're invite only. And we really came into this trip like, we're going to get invited to all the secret stuff, because there's a couple of different secret things you can get invited to. Spoiler alert, we got invited to none of it.
Zero!
None of it. It's okay, though. We did not participate, just the way the scheduling worked out, we did not participate in a lot of the Happenings cast things, and I think that's where they pick the people they're going to invite to that stuff. So we did go, though, and hang out in the sip lounge and get Chris's attention as he was walking around, and so he did some close-up magic with us, and I cannot tell you exactly what he did. I don't really remember. I do remember, though, that Nina...
I was so confident that I had figured it out.
Yes.
I knew what he was doing. I knew his tricks.
Was ballsy, because I was like, even if I thought I had figured it out, I would never call it out to his face. Like,
it was not like, ballsy. It was just absurd, because, again, it will shock no one. I had no idea what was going on. I didn't know what his tricks were.
God, you were so... I know what you did.
I know what you did.
Yes, and I was like, oh my God, I was almost like, you're being rude. Don't just call him out to his face like that. What are you doing?
So first of all, Chris the Charmer is in fact charming and sweet. And second of all, I was at this point already more than mildly inebriated. I don't know if at any point I was actually fully sober on this voyage. But he was lovely to middle-aged ladies like me, and also a brilliant magician.
Yeah. So whatever it is that she thought she saw, not only did she not see, but then he did something else that completely blew both of our minds. And I really wish I had recorded it, but I didn't. Yeah, it was basically like, it's almost like he knew she was going to think that she's seen that.
I was confident that he had stuck a card in his sleeve or something really predictable, and it was none of those
But
things.
Shockingly, that single interaction was not enough to get us invited to this
Amazingly, Chris the Charmer was not charmed by my know-it-all attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was fun. That was a fun.
It was
interlude.
really fun. He went from table to table in the sip lounge and did personal magic shows and interacted with the guests, and he was absolutely lovely.
Yes, definitely. Then we had to get ready for the Splash of Romance cocktail party. That we forgot to mention that. That's another perk, is they do a cocktail party for the Splash of Romance folks, and it is up at the athletic club on deck 17.
Yes.
And it was way nicer than I expected. I didn't really know
what to expect. Yeah. We didn't even, I don't think we really even knew that they were having a cocktail party until we received an invitation that day.
Oh, wait. Well, I think I knew it was going to be at some point, but yeah, we got an invitation in our room. But before that, though, we did go around the ship. We spent some time exploring the ship. So we were taking pictures with the seahorses. Like, each of the Virgin Voyages ships has got a little area that's like super Instagrammable. And on Resilient Lady, they have these 3 seahorses that are like carousel horses, but they're sea creatures.
And there's like a motivational word behind each
neon
one.
And stuff. So we were taking pictures, and we were drinking champagne, and then we hung out at the dock. So at this point, we are docked fully in Amsterdam. The sun is starting to go down. It was a gorgeous day. We hung out at the dock, which is on deck 7 in the aft, and it's like Mediterranean tapas. And
we could have ordered bites, light bites, Mediterranean bites. We didn't, because we just were full.
Yeah. And we both had glasses of champagne at that point. We were very champagne heavy that whole day. And Nina captured a hilarious picture of me at one point where I was laying on the lounger, because I never really napped in the room while I was sitting out on the balcony.
She was watching the locks, watching the scenery.
And social mediaing. But I fell
was
asleep.
in bed, so
I fell asleep on the dock on the lounger with my champagne glass upright in my hand, and I did not spill a drop.
not a drop. That's a true professional, folks.
Yeah. So after that, we decided to go to the Splash Romance party, which if I had realized how much alcohol was going to be at the Splash Romance party, we might not have ordered 2 of those champagnes earlier in the day.
We probably would have anyway.
It was really nice. They had live
Oh
music.
my gosh.
And they had like just very freely poured free champagne. And
very freely. And I think they had a cocktail
there was another cocktail
as well.
There was if you didn't want champagne, there was
because
a
I think I
option.
had a cocktail, one of the drinks, and I didn't love it, so I just switched over to champagne.
Yeah. I can't remember what it was. But it was gorgeous. The sun was setting over Amsterdam. The picture-taking opportunities were everywhere.
Beautiful photos, beautiful scenery.
Yeah. Maddie, I think Maddie was the bounce.
No, that was Hope the Bounce.
Oh, Hope the Bounce.
So Maddie, who was one of the Happenings cast.
I can't remember now.
I can't either.
Anyway, Maddie was up there with Polaroid camera, and so she took pictures of folks and then handed them their Polaroid.
And we're going to pop in a picture of what ended up being the cutest picture of us from our Splash of Romance.
Yeah, so we just slammed as much champagne as we could get our hands on for the, 45 minutes we were up there.
Yeah.
And then we had dinner reservations at the test kitchen that night. And then we had an excursion planned in the evening in Amsterdam. So we got to the test kitchen, got seated, and then had to decide if we wanted to do sip and savor. Each of the restaurants has a sip and savor option, which is where they give you curated either cocktails, or you can do in some places
or wine pairings or beer pairings or some alcoholic pairing.
And so it costs it's an upcharge because you're paying for the alcohol, but it's curated to go with each course, and especially in test kitchen, which you don't order off a menu. It's a set menu. It's a set tasting menu. There are some options, like if you're vegan or whatever, there are some substitutions you can do, but for the most part, you're not. Everybody's getting the same thing. And it's very presentation heavy. And so we had heard that those cocktail pairings were particularly good, but we had just slammed like 5 champagnes apiece, and we're going into Amsterdam afterwards. So I was like, we probably shouldn't be wasted. So our poor waiter had to put up with us. Yes, we'll do it. No, we're not. Yes, we will. No, we're not. And that, was messing up his flow big time. And then finally we decided to
do one sip and savor package, and then we would share it.
Not realizing that each of the sip and savor drinks were actually quite small. They were smaller than normal cocktails.
Basically had like little sips.
Yeah, each one's like half the size of a normal cocktail. So it actually was fun.
But the good news was we learned that we each liked about half of the drinks. So we ended up, it worked out.
It worked out.
I want to talk a little bit about the test kitchen. This is such a cool experimental concept where Virgin Voyages works with Michelin-starred chefs in creating these truly experimental, cutting-edge menus. And it's fascinating in an actual brick-and-mortar restaurant, but mind-blowing on a ship. We had test kitchen menu number 3. The menus are constantly evolving. Different chefs are pulled in with different specialties. But our menu involved 6 courses, and they revolved around specific ingredients. So our ingredients were eel, scallop, cheese, chicken, watermelon, and yuzu. And you could sub out any one of those for a vegetarian option.
Or a vegan option.
Or a vegan option. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I did the standard. I think you subbed something out.
I did. I'm not a big fan of watermelon necessarily, so I subbed it out and received the raspberry, which I thought was delightful.
Yeah. So I loved the test kitchen. I'm not a foodie in the sense that Nina's a foodie. Like, I do watch Great British Baking Show, but other than that, I don't really watch food shows. I don't read cookbooks for fun. Like I've said before, I do HelloFresh, and that's pretty much the only cooking I do. But I'm very adventurous eater. I'm a very adventurous eater. So I loved it. Test Kitchen gets a bad rap because it is different. It is different. It's the servings are very small, but it's a tasting menu. I've heard some people give a tip that if you prefer larger portion sizes, do test kitchen, but then also plan to go to the galley or something like that. And of course, there's tons of other food options on the ship.
You
have
are
the
not
pizza.
Going to go hungry on the ship.
They have the ice cream, which we haven't even talked about.
The scoop away. Yeah. I think I was the only one who partook in the scoop away, and it was delightful.
Scoop away? What does that mean?
That's the ice cream shop.
No, it's lick me till I scream.
Right. In some circles known as scoop away, perhaps. Or not. Here's the beauty of being middle-aged, is you just make shit up.
Yeah. And the younger folks just assume you know what you're talking about. Or you turn around and they're shaking their heads and you just don't see that part. But the nice thing, all of that stuff like ice cream and stuff like that doesn't cost extra. Mm-mm. So that's unusual on both of our experience with cruising. So if you give Test Kitchen a try, if you're still hungry afterwards, there's plenty of other food for you. Don't stress it. So I loved it.
I loved it too. I loved it. I loved sharing the cocktails with you. I, in fact, enjoyed only about half of the cocktails. You enjoyed the other half. We do have a fun photo that we're going to insert in here of what happens when a beautifully garnished drink has 2 garnishes on one skewer and each of us want one of them. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that was fun.
You'll see that.
And so then we left there and went for our excursion, which we had booked this excursion through Virgin Voyages. So, we had to go get deck 7, I think, at the Shore Things desk and check in. And then we got escorted off the ship and got onto a big canal boat.
Yeah, it was like a canal barge almost.
Yeah, it was a larger one. And it was a nighttime canal cruise through the canals of Amsterdam with wine and cheese. Yeah. And it was good. It was a beautiful night. I got some gorgeous pictures. We ended up staying inside. It was a little bit chilly, but there was a window next to me that I could open so I could stick my camera out. I know some folks walk, if you ever do that excursion, you can walk to the back of the boat and there's like an open air area. And folks who were smoking and stuff went back there. But Rebecca was with us, and then she went to the back. So she was back there most of the time and said she had a great time in the back. But we were comfortable.
But we were sort of placed in little pods with little, I don't know, like a table and about 6 people per cluster. And so we made friends and had cheese. It's very easy to make friends over wine and cheese. And beautiful views.
Yeah. So that was lovely. And then we had kind of a crisis of conscience, I think, when we got off of that. Because we're right here. We were tired again. Yeah. I was tired again, at least. And
I was tired too.
And I was like, I feel like we're here and it's a beautiful night. And, tomorrow we're going to be sailing out of Amsterdam in the evening. So we wanted to do something in Amsterdam at night. We should do it now. But we hadn't really planned anything. We hadn't coordinated with anyone. And I just was like, I think I really had to go to the bathroom.
Yes.
And I was like, I just feel like I need to get back on board and then we'll decide what to do.
Yeah.
But Nina rightly was like, if we get back on board, we're not leaving again.
We're not leaving again. We
knew
we weren't leaving.
We might.
I knew we weren't.
We made it to the cabin and then we went back and forth and I don't know. I don't really have regrets about not going back into the city. I'm sure we could have had some fun. But
we found our own fun that night.
We did.
Because we actually went back, went to the room, freshened up a little bit, and then went to the social club.
Yes. That's on deck 7. Yeah. We ordered some drinks.
We ordered some snacks.
Yes, we made some new friends.
And then we went to see the White Room Band.
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
Do you remember that?
Yeah. So we had seen them the night before. That's right. They were playing. There's Virgin. It's Virgin, right? Virgin started with Virgin Records. So they have a constantly changing cast of musicians on each sailing. I think their contracts are much shorter than, the regular entertainment crew contracts. So they may only be on, a few sailings before they swap out. But there was this jam band on our sailing called the White Room that was fantastic.
So great.
Yeah, and they were always playing it on the rocks late at night. So after the PJ party, we had partied with them a little bit the night before and really didn't get any pictures that I remember anyway.
I don't think so.
But then Friday night, as we were kind of wandering back towards the room and realized they were there again. And so we stopped, had another cocktail.
Had another drink.
And, did some dancing. And then they took a break and we chatted with the band members and took some pictures.
And I ironically, we didn't realize this, but we had actually seen the entire band at the test kitchen before.
Yeah.
They were in line with us as we checked in. Didn't know that they were members of the band, but we chatted with them in line, and so it was
I
fun.
recognized them from the night before.
Maybe, yeah, maybe we had some conversation, but it was fun because later on that evening, we chatted with them about their thoughts on the test kitchen, and they also thought it was a great experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then that was it. Then we had, I guess, a pretty chill night, Friday night.
I think we were out way later than we thought we would be after spending time at On the Rocks and having snacks at the social club. But eventually we made our way back to our room.